This is a true story about a fighter pilot named Chris. He got trapped in enemy territory, surrounded from all sides, and the entire enemy army had only one mission: to capture Chris, dead or alive. At the beginning of the story, we are shown the Bosnian War, which has now ended. Therefore, the NATO army is preparing to return home. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, we are shown a USA aircraft preparing for a fighter jet takeoff. Inside, there are two pilots, and just before their fighter jet can take off, their takeoff is cancelled, and this is the second time it has happened today. Therefore, the two officers inside the fighter jet, one named Butinian Chris, who is the flight officer, and the other named Jeremy, who is the pilot, both become upset. Especially Chris, because he wants to fight for his country, to do something meaningful, while all the flights they've been flying so far are for wealthy people. At this point, a NATO commander arrives, meets with the admiral, shows him some papers, and says that they've received reports that you are flying too much and going beyond the border. This is against the rules. You might have to face consequences for this. But now he hands the admiral a card and says that a journalist is coming here. You need to get acquainted with him properly. The admiral gets very angry hearing this, but reluctantly has to follow the commander's instructions. Meanwhile, we see Chris and Jeremy in the canteen having their meal. The captain approaches them and informs them that there might be another war starting, and they might get a mission. He says, "I don't think you're ready at this moment." Grace responds, "I am fully prepared," just as an officer arrives. Someone informs Chris that the admiral is summoning him. Chris proceeds to the admiral's office. The admiral presents him with a document and inquires if he has indeed submitted his resignation letter. Chris responds, "Yes, I came here with the intention of serving my country. I aspire to pilot fighter jets, but instead I find myself being utilized like a security guard, merely taking fighter planes up and down without any meaningful purpose each day. I did not enlist in the military for this type of work." Upon hearing this, the admiral becomes infuriated and states, "I will authorize your resignation letter in 2 weeks, after which you are free to depart. You can leave if you want," and he walks out. Jeremy is in front of him. Jeremy asks, "Did you submit your resignation letter?" Reese replies, "Yes, I'm bored with this routine." And with that, he leaves. Afterward, he calls his father. Christmas is coming soon. Everyone is preparing for Christmas, and by then, he will also reach home. But then, Reese sees his name on the board, because the next mission, which Chris and Jeremy also have to go on, is in a no-fly zone. They have to go there and take pictures, but finally now they are able to pilot the fighter jets once more. Shortly thereafter, both of them maneuver their fighter jets towards the restricted no-fly zone, where it is prohibited to enter. As they ascend into the sky, Chris activates the sophisticated cameras beneath his fighter jet. He observes that below, a Serbian general who is subjugating the local populace is accompanied by his team and possesses extremely dangerous weaponry. Indeed, he is perpetrating severe crimes, oppressing the residents of Bosnia, and they have arrived here to collect evidence against him. However, the general is unable to spot it as well. Consequently, a missile assault is initiated on the fighter jet of Missile Sen. Despite successfully dodging one missile, another missile strikes their fighter jet, and just before both of them crash, they eject themselves with their seats from the fighter jet. This action saves their lives. They land in separate areas of the jungle, and now somehow Chris is determined to locate Jeremy. He swiftly finds Jeremy. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, the admiral and the other officers who are celebrating Christmas discover that Jeremy's jet has crashed. Their fighter jet has crashed. They have landed somewhere in the dense jungle, and now the admiral is determined to rescue both of them at any cost, but reaching them is not that simple. Meanwhile, Chris and Jeremy are depicted, with Jeremy having a wounded leg. They both understand that their team members cannot easily reach them because their plan has crashed elsewhere, and they are far from their aircraft. At any cost, they now need to inform their team about their precise location. Before proceeding further in the video, may I kindly request something from all of you, many of you. There are numerous viewers who regularly watch the videos but do not subscribe to the channel or like the videos, so we kindly request all of you to please subscribe to the channel and like the videos. Chris possesses a radio. He attempts to contact his team using the radio. Jeremy mentions that you cannot reach them from this location. You will have to ascend to a higher place which is quite distant from here. Although he is reluctant to leave Jeremy, he has no other option, so he proceeds towards the elevated place. Meanwhile, the Serbian general arrives at the location where their fighter jet is. The components are present, and they comprehend that their mission was to conduct espionage. This is an American fighter jet. He informs his team that under any circumstances, it is imperative to retrieve the hard drive from the fighter jet, which holds all the recorded footage. This could serve as highly significant evidence against us. Swiftly transport all these components to our workshop and recover that hard drive. Additionally, we must locate the pilots who arrived here in this fighter jet. They promptly arrive at the location where Jeremy is situated. They identify Jeremy, and the general instructs his marksman to eliminate him. He fires at the source of the heat. Then from afar he observes everything. A loud scream escapes Jeremy's mouth, which the general and his soldiers hear clearly. They open fire at him, and he quickly runs away to save his life. Dodging the bullets skillfully, he reaches an elevated place where he contacts his admiral via radio and informs them of everything that has transpired so far. The admiral provides him with a specific location and instructs him to reach there as soon as possible, where he will be rescued. Now Chris begins running swiftly towards that location where he will be rescued. An aircraft is being dispatched from this location to retrieve him. The NATO commander discovers that, despite his objections, the admiral has dispatched his personnel into the restricted airspace, and now one of their aviators is ensnared there. Another aircraft is being dispatched once more to rescue him. He strongly advises against proceeding with this action because it could entirely disrupt the ongoing peace negotiations, potentially causing them to restart from the beginning, which is undesirable for everyone involved. Meanwhile, Chris skillfully evades the oncoming bullets and successfully reaches the designated location that the admiral had previously indicated to him. From there, he establishes contact with his admiral via radio communication and is informed that they are unable to dispatch a rescue team for him at this moment. They need to return to their zone as swiftly as possible, from where they will eventually pick him up. They must rely on their extensive training. This is a significant test for him, and now Chris must carefully navigate through the perilous jungle, surrounded by numerous enemies, to reach that critical point. They discover that they have established a new satellite connection, which enables them to continuously track Chris's precise location at all times. They observe his current position and notice that several individuals are approaching Chris, and once again gunfire erupts targeting him. To preserve his life, he dives into the mud, and when the individuals who were shooting at him arrive, they are unable to locate Chris anywhere. They assume Chris is deceased, but he remains very much alive. After they depart, he emerges from beneath a deceased body. In reality, he had concealed himself under a dead body. He commands his soldiers to approach Chris with the utmost urgency to facilitate his rescue. Meanwhile, Chris continues to advance steadily. At this point, the media becomes aware that a fighter jet aircraft has vanished. This news spreads rapidly, and even the Serbian general becomes infuriated upon discovering that Chris remains alive. They possess fragments of Chris's fighter jet, and he instructs his engineer that the hard drive will contain all the photographs that Chris and his partner captured. He demands that every single one of them be retrieved. Subsequently, he mentions that he will make an attempt to accomplish that. Meanwhile, Chris is depicted sprinting towards a deserted factory. Within the factory, an elderly man is present with a young child, and Chris observes the presence of a tripwire. At that precise moment, the Serbian military forces arrive. Before they have the opportunity to eliminate Chris, one of the soldiers inadvertently steps on the tripwire, triggering a series of explosions. All the soldiers are consequently killed. Chris sustains injuries, and in the following moment, he notices that the general's marksman has also arrived. Therefore, he flees into the forest to preserve his life, from where he calls the control room and reports his location. He says that he is near the safe zone. The admiral instructs him to head east, assuring him that he will personally come to pick him up there. After this, Chris moves towards the pickup point. As he walks, he reaches a road where a car approaches him. He asks the driver for a lift. Although the driver doesn't understand his language, he still gives Chris a lift. Meanwhile, the general's shooter also arrives at the spot where Chris got the lift. He tells his companions that they must find and eliminate Chris at any cost. Therefore, they start searching for that car throughout the city. When the car enters the city, it is attacked. In fact, the whole city is now under a warlike atmosphere. They all go inside a house where a man asks Grish, "Are you here to attack us?" Grish replies, "No, I came here with my partner to take photos of these places." And now the general's men arrive and attack the place with tanks, killing many civilians. They want to find Chris at any cost, but they do not find him there. Subsequent to this, the shooter notifies the general that Chris has altered his attire and made his escape, and he likely has already communicated with his team via the radio by this time, and the team will be arriving here to rescue him. Consequently, we must locate him as swiftly as possible. Meanwhile, Chris is depicted sprinting, and once more, the identical boy who previously provided him a ride appears before him, and now both of them commence running together. Indeed, both of them are on the verge of reaching the pickup point shortly. Meanwhile, the news broadcasts that Chris is now deceased. The admiral also observes this news. In reality, Chris had placed it on another individual and left his communication device there as well prior to making his escape. Now, as he is on the verge of reaching the designated pickup location, the NATO team is also in close proximity, and they are instructed to abort the mission because the nation no longer exists in this world. The farmer observes the NATO helicopter departing, which deeply saddens him. Then, his gaze shifts to a platform above. He recalls when he was ejected, the seat with which he exited the fighter jet which contains the drive and all the crucial data for which he came. He had come to this place with it and it fell in the same place where this statue is. He wants to recover the hard drive from the seat near the statue at any cost so that his friend's sacrifice along with his own does not go in vain. Then he starts moving towards the statue. The general usually orders his shooter. At any cost, they are to kill Chris and bring his body in front of him. That's why they are constantly trying to find Chris. Meanwhile, Chris reaches the statue where he quickly finds the seat. From there, he wants to turn on the signals so that the Admiral knows that He doesn't know where he is, but the device's battery is low, so he can't turn it on. He has to turn it on manually. Meanwhile, the Admiral is informed that the beacon inside the seat was manually turned on for 5 minutes by someone. The Admiral thinks this is Chris's doing. Chris is still alive, but his team believes it could be a trap for them. Therefore, they shouldn't go there. The Admiral decides to send a rescue team once again to the location where the signals came from. On the other hand, we see the shooter searching for Chris nearby. There is. His companion is with him, whose foot accidentally steps on a landmine. The shooter says that you have to stop here, and he moves forward himself. Shortly thereafter, Chris perceives the sound of a detonation. This indicates that the shooter, along with his accomplice, has been eliminated. He understands that the general's marksmen have located his vicinity. When Chris activated the device, the general also pinpointed the location, dispatching a battalion in that direction. Meanwhile, the Admiral is personally arriving with his team to extract Chris. However, at this moment, the general's marksman arrives at the location of the seat, where Chris is also present. He notices the seat. Just as he begins advancing towards it, suddenly, the sound of a helicopter gradually becomes discernible, prompting him to advance with caution. As he approaches and reaches the seat, Chris unexpectedly emerges from hiding and discharges his weapon at him. The general's battalion of Serbian soldiers has also arrived and commences their assault on Chris. However, the Admiral has also arrived via helicopter. They engage with the Serbian forces, providing protection for Chris. He retrieves the hard drive situated near the seat and dashes toward the cliff, leaping off it. The rescue team successfully catches him. Subsequently, he is transported. He goes to where the Admiral is. He gives the hard drive to the Admiral and says that Journey was killed for the hard drive, and he also takes back the resignation he had given. Now, from the hard drive he brought, it is revealed that the general had committed many war crimes, such as killing civilians. Therefore, he is declared a war criminal and arrested, and all this was possible because of Jeremy and Chris. Due to their efforts, the oppression of the common people there has stopped. This was a true story from the lives of Journey and Chris, and all these incidents took place between the years 1992 and 1995, during the tumultuous period of the Bosnian War, the Serbian general was oppressing the local populace. He was perpetrating all sorts of war crimes. This was brought to light thanks to the efforts of Chris and his partner Jeremy. With this particular scene, the true narrative of this movie reaches its conclusion. Kindly let me know in the comments which movie story you would like to hear about next, as I read your comments and am sincerely grateful for your wonderful feedback.